For the first segment, we're going to be taking a look at free agent landing spot, the top 10 wide receiver free agent landing spots. Now, we're coming off of a weekend where we have the fastest wide receiver class in NFL history in this upcoming class in the draft. Not only do we have a very deep and talented wide receiver class in this next draft, but this free agency class, when it comes to wide receivers, is one of the best I have ever seen, if not the best I have ever seen. We not only have the best wide receiver, the best current wide receiver in the NFL in this free agency class, but we have Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, expected to be Amari Cooper, Mike Williams, Odell Beckham Jr., Antonio Brown, Allen Robinson, Michael Gallup. I mean, the list goes on of outstanding star wide receivers that are going to be in this free agency class. Now, before I do this, I just want to mention for a lot of you guys, there's going to be teams that are in desperate need of a wide receiver that are not going to take a wide receiver, at least a top 10 wide receiver in this next upcoming free agency class. Simply because they can easily find a wide receiver two in the first, second, third round of this upcoming class, in this upcoming draft, I mean to say. They can easily find one. For example, the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of people have gotten mad at me when I say the Philadelphia Eagles might not take a wide receiver in this free agency, at least not a starting wide receiver in this free agency 2022. And while they desperately need a free agent wide receiver, while they desperately need a wide receiver to play alongside Devontae Smith, at the end of the day, the Philadelphia Eagles can find someone in the first, second, and third round. With that being said, though, I mean, I believe the Eagles do have 3 first-round draft picks, so they don't need to take a wide receiver in this next upcoming free agency class. They really don't. They can find someone in the first round when you look at how many stars there are in this next upcoming draft class. One of the best I've ever seen. We're going to start it off with the best receiver in the NFL currently, Davante Adams. Let the Davante Adams sweepstakes begin, because this is a player who there is going to be a lot of teams that are going to want Davante Adams and are not going to be able to get him. There is going to be one team, I believe, who is going to overpay for Davante Adams. Overpay for Davante Adams? What do you mean by that? He's the best receiver in football. He should be the top receiver paid, right? Yeah, I believe he will, and I believe he's going to be the biggest wide receiver contract we have ever seen should go to Davante Adams, and that's what I believe is going to happen. And I think the Indianapolis Colts will make Davante Adams the highest paid receiver of all time. Now, yeah, a tag and trade is very possible. I believe that the Packers should look to franchise tagging Davante Adams if he wants to come back. I believe they should look to franchise tagging him. Even if Davante Adams is franchise tagged, though, I do believe the Packers will trade him away just because it's time for the Packers to look to the future. Now, yeah, they can try to reload this offseason and go in again next year, especially when you look at how weak our division is. It's very possible, but at the end of the day, I just don't think it's going to happen, and it's going to really depend on if Aaron Rodgers wants to go. Now, Indianapolis Colts, I believe the Colts will overpay for Davante Adams. They will pay all of their money to Davante Adams looking to trade for Aaron Rodgers. This is going to be the Colts trying to tell the Packers to trade Rodgers to them, say, yeah, we'll give you Carson Wentz contract. We'll take on Rodgers contract, and Indianapolis Colts will just own their division. I mean, let's not forget the divisions. They have the Texans and they have the Jaguars in that division. So that's 4 wins right there for them. And outside of that, they can definitely sneak out of that division, win the division, and maybe make a Super Bowl run next year if they are able to get Tay and if they are also able to get Rodgers. Now, this is going to be the Indianapolis Colts trying to compete with Broncos here, because right now, if there's one team that I believe will get Rodgers, it will be the Broncos. But as long as the Colts get Davante Adams, they will be in the sweepstakes for Rodgers and can definitely compete for a Super Bowl next year. And that's why I think the Indianapolis Colts will spend just about all of their money on Davante Adams this free agency. Next up, we have Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin, I believe, will go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chris Godwin's already a free agent. This last 4 years of football have went by very fast. It's hard to believe that this draft class is 2017 draft class, I believe it is. They're already all entering free agency. So Chris Godwin, 26 years old, very young receiver coming out of Tampa Bay, has played the last 4 years with them and now is finally hitting free agency. Now, Tampa Bay is in a very tough situation. Obviously, like Tom Brady said that he's going to retire. Even if he comes out of retirement, I don't think Brady will actually go back to playing with Tampa Bay. With that being said, they have no idea. I mean, with Antonio Brown obviously being gone now, what's going to happen with Gronk? I mean, they really don't know. At the end of the day, Mike Evans is still going to be there, but who's going to play alongside him? Tyler Johnson from here in Minneapolis, Minnesota? Maybe he'll be their wide receiver too next year. But you look at Chris Godwin, and I don't believe he will return with Tampa Bay. I think they will try to give him another contract, but Godwin will go and get paid somewhere else. What other team should pay him more than the Jacksonville Jaguars? Right now, the Jaguars love to run their 11 personnel, and it's not working. It's not working. A lot of people are grading Trevor Lawrence off his rookie season, saying, oh, this guy looks like a bust. Trevor Lawrence went to the worst team in the NFL, and you're calling him a bust after his rookie season. Let's not grade him too high. Let's not forget Peyton Manning and Drew Brees also had bad rookie seasons. So Trevor Lawrence, if they want to get the best out of him, they have to beef up that offensive line. They have to give him better playmakers. Now, this is not me saying that DJ Chark, Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, this is not me saying that these are bad targets for him. I know they have a lot of depth at wide receiver, but at the end of the day, they need that star wide receiver one, and Chris Godwin could come in there and be by far their most targeted receiver. And I'm sure Trevor Lawrence would love to have Godwin on his team. Godwin is still young. He's just 26 years old. You put him on a 4-year contract, you can just build a good connection right there. Because if there's one thing, when I watched Trevor Lawrence play last year, he didn't have that connection with his receivers that Gardner Minshew had with like DJ Chark. Or there was not that same wide receiver to quarterback connection that we saw with the Jaguars in the past. So yes, I believe the Jaguars are desperately needing a wide receiver, and they have a lot of money. So they can make Chris Godwin a top 5 wide receiver paid if they wanted to. It is a perfect spot for him to go. Next up, we have a player who's not technically a free agent quite yet, and that is Amari Cooper. At this point, there's no question that the Cowboys will release Amari Cooper. Now, your first thoughts are, well, why would Amari Cooper go from the Cowboys? I mean, he's one of the best receivers in football, and he looks great with the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are still a Super Bowl contending team, and with Amari Cooper, they can be. Well, if they do release Amari Cooper, it will save them a lot of money. And once you look at that contract, you'll realize why the Cowboys are looking to get rid of Amari Cooper, especially when they have CeeDee Lamb and Cedric Wilson are both on the rookie contracts, I believe. So there's really no reason for them to pay Amari Cooper. But you know who will want to pay Amari Cooper? The Cleveland Browns. Right now, the Cleveland Browns are interested in getting a new wide receiver. The Browns are also going to release Jarvis Landry. So once the Browns release Jarvis Landry, I believe they'll save him $15 million. Once the Browns release Jarvis Landry, they just lost Odell. There's nobody. There's nobody in that wide receiver group. I mean, this last year, due to COVID, they were signing players off of the streets. Browns desperately need a wide receiver, and there's no question that they will take one of the top wide receivers in this next free agency class. And I believe it's going to be Amari Cooper. The Browns have already reportedly talked with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Allen Robinson, and some others, according to Howie and Jackson. No, I'm not sure who those people are, if they're credible sources, but according to what I've seen, the Browns are in the search for a new wide receiver, and will likely also cut Jarvis Landry. Now, Jarvis Landry didn't make this list, but again, Jarvis Landry's not going to be with the Browns next year. Going to be completely honest, it's not going to happen. Next up, we have Mike Williams. Mike Williams, wide receiver with the Chargers, will not leave the Chargers. It's not going to happen. Now he's set to hit free agency, whether he gets franchise tagged or not. I mean, Mike Williams should not want to leave Los Angeles, first of all, and Los Angeles should not want to get rid of Mike Williams. I mean, that connection between Justin Herbert and Mike Williams is unmatched. There's no way he's going to go to another team and have a quarterback that makes him look as good as he did this last year. It's just not going to happen. Mike Williams is not going anywhere. He's not leaving Los Angeles. The connection between Herbert, Mike Williams, and having Keenan Allen on that team and Austin Eckler, I mean, that's an elite offense right there. And the Chargers desperately need Mike Williams if they want to continue to compete in a division where they have Patrick Mahomes and maybe Aaron Rodgers coming to town. Okay, that AFC West with Aaron Rodgers, if he goes there, that's going to be by far the toughest division in football. I mean, they should easily. The Chargers have the money to pay for Mike Williams, and while their main focus should be defense this offseason, they definitely want to keep Mike Williams for what he did for his team the last year. Another player who should not want to leave Los Angeles is Odell Beckham Jr. Now, a while earlier this year, I have talked about Odell leaving the Los Angeles Rams simply because they have a very deep wide receiver group with Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp obviously being their starting 2 receivers. Outside of that, Van Jefferson has really stepped up, and then you have Odell. So you have a lot of elite wide receivers, and I've talked about how Odell will likely leave the Rams. Now, looking back on it, Odell and the Rams organization have already talked about running it back. Odell has said that he wants to run it back. Rams have said that they want to run it back. So at this point, there's no question that, I mean, they're going to at least try to work out a deal. I believe that the Rams and OBJ will try to work out a deal, and it will go through, and the Rams will have Odell back on the roster in 2022. Plus, he scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl at this point. I mean, they're going to try to run it back. It'll likely be a one-year deal, but they'll likely try to bring Odell back and bring Von Miller back to their team to try to win another Super Bowl next year. They're going to go a lot over the cap for that to be said. And then also they don't have a first-round draft pick. I mean, when was the last time the Rams have had a first-round draft pick? Next up, I believe this is the 5th best receiver in this upcoming class, or 6th best, Antonio Brown. Okay. Antonio Brown has been one of the best receivers I have watched play football live. He has. One of the best. I'd actually put him top 5. Yeah, nobody should want Antonio Brown at this time. I mean, he's not talked about retirement, or at least from what I've seen, he hasn't mentioned that he's going to retire. Yeah, nobody wants him. Okay, let's be honest. I mean, not only is he 34 years old, but he has terrible, his character is awful. I mean, it just shows how important character is. Antonio Brown should have been a Hall of Fame wide receiver. He should have been one of the best receivers in football. But his Antonio clown, I mean, his behavior has ruined that. So I believe he will not play for an NFL team this upcoming season. And after the season, we'll mention that he wants to return to the NFL. This is my prediction right now because this is a very Antonio Brown prediction. He doesn't play for a team this upcoming season because he's not going to get top dollar. A year from today, we're going to talk. Antonio Brown's going to say that he wants to return to the NFL, and it's not going to happen because I don't believe anybody should want Antonio Brown. I don't care who you are. If he couldn't work with a team that had Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, he's not going to work with any team because that team, if you have a bad character with Patriots, you're going to have a bad character with every team. For that reason, I think he's actually going to play for the USFL in a couple of years. I think the USFL is going to be a little more greedy to try to get some more attention, and this will definitely help them signing Antonio Brown because it is one thing Antonio Brown does. He gets attention whatever happens to him. Next up, we have Allen Robinson, maybe the most underrated receiver in this class. I believe Allen Robinson will go to play with the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons are in a very interesting situation because Falcons can easily try to go for a rebuild here, but they shouldn't want to. I mean, the Falcons should not want to go for a rebuild. I mean, Tom Brady just retired. He's leaving your division. Sean Payton's leaving your division. The Saints are completely screwed in their salary cap. Saints are going to lose Marcus Williams and Terron Armstead this upcoming free agency. Not to mention the fact that the Saints aren't even a good team in the first place. So they're losing a lot of these pieces that they had, and they're losing Jameis Winston as well. So they're losing a lot of these pieces, and your division is wide open. Who knows what's happening with the Carolina Panthers, too? I mean, the Falcons, it is their turn to own their division, and they desperately need Matt Ryan to have a number 1 target because this last year, it wasn't Calvin Ridley or Kyle Pitts. Surprisingly, Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts were not their number 1 target. It was Cordero Patterson, who might not be with their team this next year. So it's going to be interesting to see. So having Allen Robinson, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, Cordero Patterson, if he returns, like that is so many elite playmakers to have on your offense for Matt Ryan to work with, and they should own their division and actually be one of the best offenses this next year. And it has to do with the fact that they're going for a new coaching staff because their last coaching staff did not get it done. It's good to know they have some better offensive minds in that locker room, and this could definitely help them out. Now, Allen Robinson, would he be their number 1 target if they have Ridley and Pitts? I don't know, but they should look to bringing in someone else, and who better than Robinson? Maybe they look to the draft as well. This is possible, but I believe Robinson would fit perfectly with the Falcons offense. Next up, Michael Gallup, another receiver from the Cowboys who will likely leave. It's going to be interesting because the Cowboys getting rid of Amari Cooper, they could be looking to bring back Michael Gallup. I don't know if that's even going to happen because of how many teams are desperate for a wide receiver 1. And if Michael Gallup can be a wide receiver 1 somewhere else, why would he want to stay with them? I mean, it's possible. Don't get me wrong. They could definitely pay him. They have the money to pay for Michael Gallup, especially if they release Amari Cooper, which I believe at this point is evident. If they release Amari Cooper, they have the money to bring back Michael Gallup. At the end of the day, I mean, CeeDee Lamb, Cedric Wilson, and they can just bring in someone in the draft. This is a draft where you could find a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds and plug him in as a starter day 1. I mean, this upcoming wide receiver class is elite, and especially with that Cowboys offense, you don't need to bring Amari Cooper or Michael Gallup back. You don't need either of these playmakers on your offense anymore. You really don't, especially when you have arguably the best running back duo in football. Second best. I mean, Browns have that by a long shot. Second best running back duo in football. So I believe Michael Gallup will go to one of these younger teams as he's a very young receiver. He only just finished his rookie contract. I believe he's going to go to play with the Chicago Bears. Bears are desperately in need, just like the Jaguars. Bears need to help their offensive line and give their young quarterback more playmakers to work with. So like I talked about how Chris Godwin going to play with the Jaguars, how he would benefit Trevor Lawrence tremendously being his number 1 target. The Bears are in the same situation where they have their year 2 quarterback now, and he just finished his rookie season with absolutely nobody to work with. I mean, Allen Robinson was a terrible receiver this last year. Bears were one of the worst offensive lines this last year. So Jaguars and Bears are kind of in this parallel situations right now where I believe Michael Gallup and Chris Godwin are perfect fit for wide receiver 1s for their young hopefully star quarterbacks, their young quarterbacks going into year 2. Bears are no question going to look to a receiver. Whether that's Gallup or someone else, Bears are signing a receiver this free agency class, no question. Next up, we have JuJu. Now, I don't know how I kind of more wanted JuJu to fit in this top 10. I kind of wanted him to put in this top 10 wide receivers. Do I think he's a top 10 free agent wide receiver? Honestly, put someone else right there. I hate to be a JuJu hater here, but okay, let's be honest. JuJu's not going back to the Steelers. Steelers fans, you're not getting JuJu back. It's not going to happen. I know a lot of you Steelers fans might have bought a jersey, might have bought a JuJu jersey, might be an avid listener to his TikTok or whatever you call it, an avid viewer to his TikTok. Yeah, but JuJu at the end of the day is the third best receiver, maybe fourth best receiver on that Steelers team. This is a Steelers team with Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, James Washington, and then maybe JuJu number 4. Okay, I hate to be the JuJu hater. I think he's a great guy, but let's be honest. He's not as good as a lot of people are saying that he is. He is arguably the fourth best receiver on that Steelers team. And don't forget, this is the Steelers team that can draft someone in the 7th round. They're going to end up being in the top half of wide receivers in football. I mean, this is a Steelers team that just doesn't miss on receivers. No way are they going to bring him back. It's not going to happen, Steelers fans. It's not going to happen. He's going to go to be a wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 somewhere else. I picked the Jets. Just like how I mentioned with the Chicago Bears having Justin Fields, with the Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars, I believe the Jets are in the same situation where they have a quarterback. They got their quarterback last year. He's going into his 2nd year, and he is nobody. I mean, his offensive line is garbage. I guess the Jets' offensive line has gotten a little bit better these last few years, but it's still not great offensive line. Their playmakers are buns. I mean, Jamison Crowder is still their starting wide receiver. He's healthy. What, a third of the games? So at the end of the day, they definitely need a new receiver, and the Jets are another one of those teams that should look to signing a wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. And on top of that, drafting a receiver in the first 3 rounds. Because at the end of the day, you shouldn't just have one good receiver. You need multiple great receivers. As this is a pass-heavy league, especially when you have Zach Wilson and you're looking to get the most out of him, you got to look to another wide receiver. And JuJu would fit perfectly onto that Jets team. He's going from the Steelers to the Jets, so not a very far drive for him. And lastly, we have DJ Chark. DJ Chark was one of the best receivers a couple years ago. Not anymore. I mean, he just came off of a terrible year, and this is why I believe he's a very undervalued player that you can definitely get for minimal money. And I have the Philadelphia Eagles here. Now, I mentioned how the Eagles previously this offseason, I said that they don't need to bring in a free agent wide receiver. But DJ Chark is a very underrated player that you can bring in. He's only 26 years old. He's coming, or will be 26 years old. He's coming off of his rookie contract and can go on to a team, and maybe he has that upside to be a star receiver still. Maybe he just wasn't it last year, but he has superstar potential. And DJ Chark can be that with the Philadelphia Eagles. Same situation where they have a young quarterback and need to give him more playmakers. Eagles fans, let's face it, you got to stop starting Reagor. You have to. I get it. Jalen Reagor was a first-round pick, and that's the only reason why he's had as much playtime as he had. If Jalen Reagor was a 4th-round pick, he likely wouldn't be on the Eagles team anymore. Let's face it. Davante Smith is your starting receiver, and you need someone to play alongside him. Who better than DJ Chark, who's a very undervalued player, who can even be better than Davante Smith this next year? Gonna be honest, Chark is a very underrated player. He has superstar potential still. Just didn't have it last year, and I don't believe he'll go back to the Jaguars. I believe the Jaguars will look to someone else like Chris Godwin, who would be a massive upgrade from Chark. And Chark will likely go to play with the Eagles or someone else. I mean, I believe he's a very valuable wide receiver 2 to have. If anybody who gets him as a wide receiver 2 will be very lucky. Even if he ends up being a starting receiver still with the Jets or something like that, like that's a very possible solution as well. I believe the Eagles should look to bringing in a receiver in this year's draft or in this year's free agency. I believe there's no question that the Eagles are in desperate need of a receiver right now. Even after drafting a wide receiver in the first round the last 2 years, they still need receivers, because it's the Philadelphia Eagles. And yes, I do believe they will bring in DJ Chark. And those are the 10 landing spots for all of the top 10 receivers. I have Davante Adams going to the Colts. Colts will make him the highest paid receiver in NFL history. Godwin going to the Jaguars. Godwin will get paid with the Jaguars as they need him. Cooper going to the Browns. Mike Williams staying with the Chargers. OBJ staying with the Rams. Antonio Brown going to the USFL in 2 years. Allen Robinson going to the Falcons. Falcons will take control of their division. Michael Gallup going to the Bears. JuJu going to the Jets. Chark going to the Eagles. And that is my top 10. Let me know what y'all think about that top 10.